Hello fellow old schoolers and welcome to the channel. In this next round of the Long Island Cup 1.5 we are having a matchup between the Naya setup and a black and red and green Disco Troll deck. And the Disco Troll deck is a new one. I haven't seen it with green before, at least not on this channel. And the Disco Troll deck usually employs a bunch of creatures that regenerate, like Sedge Troll. You can also use Earthen Troll and other regenerating creatures. And then an Invulnerable Disc to just bomb the board state and make its own creatures survive through regeneration and getting a card advantage through that. And finally getting in with those regenerating creatures after everything has been destroyed. And usually it also packs either a burn package or a control package with counter spells, or a combination of both. This one uses green though, so I'm pretty curious to see what this color will bring into the archetype. We'll see, I suppose. It's coming up against this guy, the Naya. And in essence, Naya doesn't employ blue either. It's white, green and red, and it has similarities with the Urnum Burnham deck in that it produces a lot of ramp, fast mana and a lot of small critters, and then rushes down with the burn package with lightning bolts, fireballs, etc. But when you go Naya, you also splash white into it, mainly for the 7 Alliance, for some very good critters to rush the other guy down, and for the white removal in Swords to Plowshares and Disenchants. So it's a 3-color rush deck or weenie deck. Sometimes it curves out into Urnumjins and even a Serra Angel, but usually it's like a weenie deck, rush type of deck with the Elvish Archers, 7 Alliance, Curd Apes, stuff like that. So without further ado, we have a battle between a defensive Disco Troll deck and a rush aggressive Naya. Let's see who will make it. This is round 1, and we have the Disco Troll on the left here. Here's his hand with a Library of Alexandria, Maze of Ith, 2 Badlands, City of Brass, Demonic Tutor, and an Avoid Fate main deck. Pretty interesting that tech. That Avoid Fate could be to make the disc survive a disenchant. Let's see at the other guy. City of Brass, Factory, Chaos Orb, Lightning Bolt, Swords to Plowshares, Regrowth, and a Savannah Lion, I think it was. So we're off. Naya on the play, starting off with a Savannah Lion. Very aggressive opening, and that's what the Naya needs in this matchup. And this control player needs to play for time. I think he starts off with a Maze of Ith. He has all the time in the world, so wanting to reduce the damage, and he has a Library of Alexandria he can put down later on to get card advantage. He just needs to stabilize and protect himself against Naya. Ooh, there's a Chaos Orb. He can Chaos Orb the Maze of Ith, and yeah, he mazes the Lion immediately. Okay, no. Okay, there is no library yet. He probably wants him to use the Chaos Orb first, so he doesn't Chaos Orb the library. He will now use it on the Maze of Ith, I suppose. Yes. He could actually avoid Fated. He has an Avoid Fate in hand. I think he should. But he doesn't do so. He had that Avoid Fate in hand and he has a City of Brass out. I think that would have been pretty cheeky. Oh, but he can't really. It's of course, the Avoid Fate can only be used against sorceries in instance. Or is it enchantment in instance? Anyway, not an artifact. So yeah, there was no way for him to block that. Now we have a Factory and a Lion. He comes over with both, so he probably has something to remove the other guy's Factory with. The Naya usually has a bunch of removal with those white and red colors. Yeah, he tries to block and tap his Factory. That shouldn't be allowed. He has just played that Factory, but it has summoning sickness, but it doesn't matter. It gets bolted out immediately. Second Lion hitting the table here. A lot of early damage here. 6 points of damage. There's a library, and we can't really have the time to use it. He needs... Yeah, if only he had a balance or something like that, but he can tutor now. I wonder what he'll take. He has made a land drop, so a Maze of Earth will not save him here. Perhaps a Fireball? If he has the mana. He doesn't have the mana though. Earthquake perhaps, if he plays with that. So Naya really needs to put the hurt on him now before he can play whatever he tutored for. It might look like a straight up rundown here, but the moment the disc control stabilizes here, the Naya is in a world of trouble. So he needs to dominate the early game completely, the Naya deck. Otherwise, he'll lose. Okay, tapping the Soaring and a City of Brass and regrowthing a Bolt. Okay, that's actually pretty mean. Just to rush him down here. He takes a bunch of damage from those Cities of Brass, and then how on earth did he Bolt? Oh yeah, he used the second colorless mana from the Sol Ring to attack with the factory, and then he bolted with the City of Brass. Fair enough. A bunch of damage going in. This is horrible for the disc control deck. If he plays that Earthquake, he'll take a point of damage himself, and he can't really use the City of Brass. And then he'll die to the factory, won't he? What can he do? Took too much damage too fast here. I think he tutored for an Earthquake. I have a hunch that he plays with the main deck against weenie types of decks like this. But if he plays it, the factory will just kill him in the next round. Yeah, and the other guy also had a Bolt in hand. That's game. Naya took the first one in a rush down game. 1-0 here. So we'll let these guys sideboard, and then we'll be straight back into the next round. And likely the disc control player will opt for some more creature removal, more Earthquakes, more board destruction, just to survive the early game. Perhaps some life gain as well. He'll probably sideboard anti-artifact stuff out, or he could keep them in against those factories and Chaos Orb, I suppose, but usually that would be the play. And the Naya will likely get some stuff in. If he doesn't have 4 Swords to Plowshare's main deck, he should have after sideboard against the Trolls, if he has intel on the opponent's deck at this point. Also, Disintegrate could be a viable option, and more ways to remove artifacts like Divine Offering and Disenchants against the discs. We'll see if this holds true. I could be way off here. This is round 2 after sideboard. And then Naya, he doesn't really know what he's up against, I think, at this point. Okay, here's his hand. A Strip Mine, 2 factories, a Plateau. I can't really see the other stuff. Yeah, a bunch of lands though. He'll probably have a factory play here, trying to do a bunch of damage with those factories. Here's the other hand. Earthquake, okay, Terra, yeah, that's probably a good choice. He has kept a Shatter in as a Mana Vault, Strip Mine, City of Brass, and a Swamp. So, again, a lot of removal and ways to survive the early game here. Those Mana Vaults are pretty cool with the disc, because when you activate the disc, it removes the tapped Mana Vault, so they no longer do any damage to you. You can use them to play big fireballs or get out an early disc. Okay, factory coming out. Pretty slow start from the Naya at this point. I think that's a Sylvan Library. That, if it is, it could be it's a good card, but his own discs will destroy it. But I suppose in the early game it'll help him get the cards he needs here. Also, it'll likely draw some disenchants away from the discs. Okay, Naya really giving it a good think here. There's a Plateau coming down. Then coming over the factory, there are no threats, as the Mana Vault can only produce colorless mana. So nothing that can destroy an attacking factory. Not in old school, anyway. There's a Strip Mine on the hand of the... Yeah, he plays it here. He can't really terrorize the factory, but he I think he could also strip mine the plateau and then, and then excellent. Because he can still shatter, he had a shatter in hand and he can use that on the factory. And this will keep the Naya Su at bay here. He's pretty mana starved at this point. If he attacks now, he should shatter the factory. It is a bit of a risk to attack at this point because the target of that strip mine was the plateau. And without any colored mana, the Naya Su, we can't really get anything out. Okay, there's a Chaos Orb though, he can get that out. Okay, so there's a new target for the Shatter. So it was a good call to keep the Shatters in, I suppose, even though I had anticipated he would likely sideboard some of them out in order to make room for more creature removal or life gain. Or more defenses in general. Forest coming out. Oh, and that's a Will-o'-the-Wisp. I remember that card when I was a kid. I loved black cards when I was a kid. The Wretched, Jusambien, Will-o'-the-Wisp, Bad Moon, stuff like that. And this was like a legendary, rare revised creature I've heard about. 0/1 regeneration. The perfect defensive creature for a single black mana. So it's good in this archetype because it'll survive the disc again. And in general, the disc control will have a lot of defenses, and that will force the opponent to play more and more threats in order to overwhelm the Maze of Ith, the Will-o'-the-Wisp, etc. And once you have committed a lot of creatures out, you can just play the disc and then click it, and that's usually game, because all the threats of the opponent will be gone by then, but yours would have regenerated. So it's a viable strategy to play with these blockers early game, to force the other guy to just keep producing threats, keep committing to the board. The only real problem is if the opponent can remove those discs, so that's why some disc control decks keeps counter magic in hand to protect them. And with this green splash he uses, he has those Avoid Fate as a similar role as a counter spell to protect the discs. That's a Maze of Ith, so now you need 4 attackers to get in. Yeah, he can strip mine the Maze of Ith though. Still only colorless mana on the Naya Su here. So he's running out of time. I mean, yeah. This control is also waiting for an Earthquake, Terror, and a Chain Lightning. Disenchant and an Elf. Couldn't see the other cards, but he's completely mana starved after losing that plateau. The Naya Su here. And this is time he can't afford to lose. I mean, the longer this game takes, the more the disc control player will just gain control of the game. Okay, he has to discard his Urnamjin, so he has mid-range creatures in this Naya Su deck. As said earlier, you can play them with a lower mana curve and with fewer lands in order for a soft card advantage. You can also use Bazaar of Baghdad in the Naya Su if you have a very, very low mana curve in order to gain more card advantage and gain more threats. Anyway, City of Brass, that's the first elf. So yeah, I think if I were the disc control, I'll just chain lightning that elf now. It would be so mean, and you can't really use it on anything else. And it's evident that, yeah, the Naya Su is in so much trouble. Doesn't have enough mana, not enough colored mana anyway. Using the City of Brass again. Regrowthing the plateau. Makes perfect sense. Sometimes people don't like doing this, but Naya Su, he can't afford to wait for drawing a land here. He needs to get in at this point. Should probably disenchant the Sylvan Library at this point, but he doesn't choose to. Maybe he's holding back for the inevitable disc at some point. I would though. I think it would be a better play because the next 2 draws you'd get would be bad. Can't really see what that... Oh, it's a Gloom. It's a sideboarded card. Okay, so he has put a gloom in. As a response, he could have disenchanted the Sylvan Library. He had a disenchant in hand, I think. Anyway, a gloom that'll keep the Naya suit back even more. So just slowly evolving the board state, the disc control is. And now just a humble lion will cost 4 mana. Disenchant will cost 5. But disc control needs to make a threat happen here. He doesn't have all the time in the world. There are those burn spells from the Naya Su, so the longer the game takes, the more burn he'll draw. Okay, passing the turn back again. But as I said before, disc control, he doesn't have all the time in the world. He's at 8 points of life here. Just waiting for the disc control deck to get a threat out here. To actually put the Naya Su out of his misery. But it isn't a done deal yet, but the Naya Su, he needs to get some threats out. At least he had some mid-range creatures as well, so he can play for mid-game as well. There's an if be freed. Oh, that's great against those Will-o'-the-Wisps. Did cost him a bunch, but he can actually... everyone can pump green mana into it, and it'll do 1 damage to both players and 1 damage to all flyers for each green mana. Yeah, he just terrorizes it immediately. Otherwise, he could just... keep on pinging those Will-o'-the-Wisps and then lock the other guy's mana down. Because he would have to regenerate them or lose them. Bam! That's another bolt. The Sky's part. He's down to 5 points of life here. It's not good. Even though the disc control should play for time, this is too much time, and he doesn't have life gain. And the more time they'll go, it'll just be the odd bolt or the fireball, and you'll just slowly ping him down. Here comes 3 factories. He can only block 2. Regenerating. Yeah, he said takes 2 points off. He has 3 life. Is that a bolt again? Yep. Bam. That's game. Wow, I really thought the Naya Su were done here. But yeah, the disc control deck was just paralyzed. He only had defenses. Just look at him slowly burning him out. Not a single creature got in. The odd factory got in, but that's it. But yeah, 2-0 for the Naya Su deck here. And I actually think these guys... they were good sports, and they had a lot of time, so they put in a couple of bonus games, actually, I think. So if you want to stick around, there's some bonus games here. I'm not sure if they go main deck against main deck, or if they just continue to sideboard, tweaking the decks against each other. I think it's straight up main deck against main deck for the next couple of games. So for those that want to stick around, let's... check these bonus games out. And as for this game, yeah, Naya Su continues towards the top 8, and we will see who will finally be at the top 8. We can't know yet. Let's go to the bonus games. These are just a few matches for honor here, I suppose. Giving the disc control a chance to rectify the score a bit. Here's the hand of the Naya Su, a couple of elves and a disenchant. Another green card we can't see. Okay, that's an if be freed, 2 savannas and a plateau. So very fast mana, early attackers. Badlands, a couple of factories, a Setral, Chain Lightning, Sol Ring and a Fireball. Solid starts from both players here. So we got a bunch of mana ramp early on. This might be a bit more action-packed actually than the last one. Yeah, attacking with the factory. There's a Golden Pixies that can block the factory all day. Another factory coming out. And there's a troll. We haven't seen them in the tournament games here, so makes sense that after the tournament games they come out of the woodwork here. That's an elf. And The troll is a 2/2 regenerating creature, but it gets +1/+1 if there's a swamp, and those badlands, they're swamps, so it's a 3/3 creature. That's why he can't attack with Aegolian Pixies. Oh, fireballing both creatures here. Very mean. Now coming over with a factory and a sedge troll for 5 points of damage here. Brutal stuff from the Disco Troll deck this time around. Got his threats. I wonder, yeah, Naya could use a balance at this point, but I'm not sure he plays with one. It's a controversial card to have in a attack deck like the Naya. I don't think I would play with one in such a setup myself, but it's debatable. Another Aegolian Pixies here. Yeah, so just attacks with the troll here. The Aegolian Pixies can reduce the damage from the factory to 0. Could attack with one and then pump it, but it's not worth it. Whoa, look, now that's an army of sedge trolls. This is, the Naya is getting overrun by aggro here. Really a turn of the tables. If Biffy Freed coming out, but it's only a 3/3, and those trolls, they'll just regenerate afterwards, so they don't care what to do here. That's horrible, 9 points of damage in one punch. At least he can hold the factories at bay with those defenders. But yeah, Naya really needs to make something happen here. It looks like it's game. Okay, Softer Plowsharing one of them. And regrowing the Softer Plowshares. Okay, taking out... Okay, all the trolls are going out farming here. Out of the game. Bunch of life for the Disco Troll player though, but he has lost most of his punch now. That regrowth, it's such a good card. Okay, now he just suicide attacks. That makes sense. He could have chosen to attack with one factory and then pump it to 3/3 to take the if-beef with him. But I suppose if he blocks with the if-beef, he can just pump the if-beef with 1 green mana. And it'll do damage to all flyers, including the if-beef. And thereby he can kill it even with only blocking with a single factory. And also he would kill the player. I mean, he would do 2 damage with the factory and then 1 damage with the if-beef. He should do that. Should do that now. Okay, he didn't do it. I think that was a mistake. But I've been in a similar situation myself. It's not evident that that everyone can pump that if-beef, but he can win the game just by tapping a forest at this point. And 2 Savannah Lions hitting the table. If the Disco Troll loses this, he'll be so annoyed with himself after rewatching this, I think. The game is within his grasp. Another factory coming out. And the troll is attacking again, and so are the factories. This is the correct play. He just needs to suicide here. Disenchanting the factory, that's an avoid fate. Saving the factory. So yeah, he needs to block them both. This is incredible. I don't have lost count on how many times an avoid fate has changed the flow of battle on this channel. It's a lot lately. Yeah. But yeah, he concedes the game. The next attack step, the Disco Troll player will just overrun him. And he can also pump the if-beef if he wants to, just to burn the Naya deck down. So 1-2 for the a victory for the Disco Troll player here. He did even the score a bit. Now here's his chance to make it even Steven with this second and last bonus game of this recording. And here's the hand of the Disco Troll. 3 tigers, a city of brass, a Chain Lightning, Earthquake, and an Invulnerable's Disc. So a very defensive hand here. Naya seems to be mulliganing down to 6 cards here. And he's on the play. City of Brass, straight into a Savannah Lion. That's a good start from him. It's a Tiger and a Chain Lightning, just getting rid of that immediately. Another lion coming out. Okay, passing the turn. So I guess the lion can get a bite in now. 2 points of damage. Passing the turn back. Showing great restraint with that Earthquake, actually. Yeah, that's a Gothian Pixies. And there is the Earthquake. Excellent play. Now all the wind has been knocked out of the sails of the Naya. I think he's down to 2 cards here. And all his critters has been removed. And there's a disc, a couple of discs on the hand of the disc control player, and also a Chain Lightning, so he can just sit back and remove here. Yeah, no more wind in those sails. I suppose it's time for a disc then. There it goes. Well played by the disc control player here. Waiting a bit with that Earthquake, taking the damage, and then as soon as he got card advantage out of it, he moves in. Okay, there's an Urnamjin on his hand now. There we go. Okay, goes immediately out to farm, netting a bunch of life. It should be removed from the graveyard though. It's a common mistake. See it all the time, and I've done it myself. Chain Lightning the dice of the Naya deck. I suppose he has that disc now, so he just starts burning. It surprises me that, yeah, he could burn back the Naya deck, but I suppose he'll just get another bolt back in his head, and he can't make that exchange. There's a Chaos Orb coming out. Another shatter, a lot of shatters. He shatters the Chaos Orb, that surprises me. Now he can use it as a fast effect on the disc. Why? He should have waited there. When he activates the orb, he can shatter it as a response, and it won't work. Now he got a card out of it. And I know he has another shatter in hand, and he also has another disc in hand, but still that's a waste of resources, I think. Anyway, that's an Urnamjin. Can the disc? Yeah, he can. The Naya can keep on finding the answers here. But they do net the disc control player a lot of life, and that's not good for Naya because he needs to finish the game fast here. Okay, yeah, he reminds him to put the Urnamjins out of the graveyard. Good stuff. Another disc coming out. Getting immediately disenchanted. So now he has no breaks on the other guy. He shouldn't have shattered that Chaos Orb like this. He has lost control of the flow now. Bolting the elf though. He's mana flooded, the Naya. Too much land at this point. He needs a big beater. And some way to remove that Mace of Ith, I suppose. I wonder if he plays with Armageddons or Ice Storms. Both are viable options in the Naya in some brews. Okay, EFB Freed coming out. Actually, I think that this control player could just use it against him now, just ping him for 2 or 1 each turn with his own EFB, because he can hold it back with his mace. Okay, so he pumps it for 3. That's 3 points of damage. Oh yeah, the Naya pumps it for another 2 and takes damage from his City of Brass. Or does he? It's a lot. It's an insane amount of damage. It's 7 points of damage to the Naya player, if he chooses to. That surprises me. I mean, both decks are playing with a lot of burn here. It's exceedingly dangerous to take that much damage for both of them. Okay, bolting him now. Yeah, it's just a race to the bottom here. Factory on each side. And if beef put on a world of hurt. Very confident play by the Naya Su player here, thinking that he can just burn them both like this and still win the shootout with all his burn. Disc Control's attacking with a factory, having a shatter in hand here. Naya Su lets it in. So now he has a defending factory. Not a lot of life left. Another factory coming over again. Okay, that's a disenchant that saves his bacon at this point. But we see there's a shatter on the hand and also a chain lightning on the hand of Disc Control player. Naya Su is down to 2 life points at this point. That's a lion getting immediately terrorized. Then he attacks. He has a shatter in hand. That might win him the game. Also an Ernemgen shattering there. That's game. Wow. Okay, nice one. Nice one. Let EFP3 just put a nail in the coffin on both players so fast there, because they both realized they could just pump it. So it's like a living hurricane. Anyway, Disc Control's actually equalized the score to 2-2 here, but only the 2 first games counts in this setup. But it was a moral victory for the Disc Control player, I suppose, that he could rectify the score like this. Good game, good game. So after this, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what's on the SD card, and then we will return to my own adventures in this tournament with the Composition A a bit further down the road. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.